Greetings, Earthlings. More from the realm of love. I'm Nancy Love, and I'm making this video on behalf of the Planet Peace Project, a fledgling organization that was dedicated to helping save the world. But now I pretty much need the world to help save me, so go figure. The thing is, I had a concept called micropeace as well as macropeace. With the Planet Peace Project, there was education, mediation, advocacy, and celebration all included. And the macro peace, peace on a large scale between nations and within nations, factions within nations, was to be dealt with and helped, be achieved through sending mediators for free to areas of the world that are conflict ridden. But there was also an extremely important and equally important aspect of Planet Peace, the original idea that involved micro peace, which is peace within personhood, peace within our lives, within our relationships, within our families, and so forth, and our businesses, our schools, and each of us, even if we cannot even dream of having such a lofty goal as helping nations achieve freedom from war, each of us is capable and responsible for uh, achieving micro peace in our world. So there's this whole training program that relates to my training, not only in psychology and behavioral medicine, but also in religious studies, spiritual uh, studies, and secular philosophy, non religious, philosophical, and ethical training. And I thought we could put all that together and get some micropiece out of the deal. That's part of what we're trying to achieve with these Planet Peace Project videos. And to some extent, we're winning that war. There are people who've been deeply impacted by this channel, and they'll tell me so. Let me tell you why I think calling anyone a Karen needs to be considered hate speech. I despise that word, and a lot of people do because it's dismissive, and people of color will like only too much to dismiss the comments or concerns of people who are this color. And I'm not white, I'm tan. Look at this. I'm a beige, sort of cream colored person. I am not a white person. I've never seen a white person. The whitest person I've ever known was an albino Negro in Texas. He had skin the color of ash, and he was really frighteningly white looking, yet he was a black man. So, you can imagine the irony of that life. But white people aren't really white. We're like cream colored and beige and stuff. So figure that one out. Black people aren't really black. They're various shades of brown. And, we all have to fix ourselves. This is getting really ridiculous here. This world, this Homo sapiens species is this really a flawed thing. It needs to get well. I personally am ready for the next evolution of humanity, which I was actually told by the United States military intelligence community that raised me years ago would be called Homo spiritus, and that in when Homo sapiens faded away and the next evolution of this species ruled the earth, we would be more spiritual, we'd be more ethical, we'd be enlightened, we'd be able to see down probable timelines and make better choices because we could literally see the future. There was supposed to be this great opening in our DNA that would be, make us more capable of achieving peace. And even the military itself told me that it would be called Homo spiritus. Well, bring it on, Homo spiritus, bring it. Come on. This DNA over here needs some fixing on this world. Karen. Apparently, three people in a row who happen to be white and apparently exhibiting some sort of sense of entitlement and were being hypercritical made it into the news, and each of these women happened to be named Karen. So some pundits, some you know writers somewhere, got the idea to call white women who complain a lot, and the distinction is important. It really is. White women who complain a lot about things um, that seem small to other people, or should be called Karens. I talked to Karen Bass recently, the new Los Angeles mayor, who I had the privilege of meeting about 2 decades ago, and I'm just really thrilled and proud of her. And I said, "I'm so sorry your first name has become a societal epithet. It's like a curse word. Your name now." She said, "I know," but the thing is, it gets serious, and it gets serious really fast when I tell you what happened. About 6 months ago, I was in a huge store in San Diego. Might have been a Walmart, a Kmart, a Target, Ross, or it was just a really big warehouse sized store, department store, and I had gathered my few purchases, and I was sitting in my wheelchair in line to check out. But the checkout lines were quite long, and there were at least 7 or 8 people ahead of me, a couple of people behind me, including a lovely Hispanic lady that I started to talk to. When lo and behold, what did we hear? Um, a couple, a Hispanic couple, middle aged, with 2 children with them. One, a very small toddler type of kid, sitting in the cart, and one, a taller, older child, walking with them. Caught everyone's attention. There must have been like 30 to 50 people, initially about 30 people, who heard what happened, and then a whole group of people gathered around. The guy pushing the shopping cart with that little bitty toddler kid in it, who was just gurgling and he was making any scene, he wasn't making any noise, the child. The man shrieked at the top of his lungs, thunderously enough to shake the ceiling practically. He said, "If you don't quit that," he said that he was going to rip the child's head off when they got home. And he kept saying he was going to rip the child's head off. And he said he might beat the child now, but that wasn't going to be anything compared to what he was going to do to the child when he got the child home. The woman who, appeared to be the mother, didn't bat an eyelash. She apparently was used to this kind of thing. But the little boy, the kid turns out to be 9 years old, turned around. He said, "Don't do that, Dad. Don't hurt him. Please don't hurt us again." And I was like, whoa, there goes the rest of my day. Like everybody, I always have agenda for how I'm going to spend my time. I had plans, but my plans just got tossed because I wasn't going to let that happen on my watch. And I rolled out of line. The lady that I'd been talking to also paid attention, and I said, "Sir, you are going to jail. I'm calling 911. You are not going to threaten that child in front of me. That's not happening on my watch, or hers, or his, or theirs." And I started pointing to all the people who gathered around him. Suddenly, that couple and those 2 children were surrounded by 10, then 20, then more people who just formed a circle around that so-called family. And one of the main people was a white guy. One of the other main people was a middle-aged Hispanic guy. Uh, Other women of a variety of races gathered round. And I said, I'm like a big mother. And if that's his mother, and she doesn't care whether you threaten him or beat him in public and so forth, you need to know that I do, and she does, and she does, and he does, and he does. And so all these people had this intervention. A security guard came up and stood with us. And the security guard for the store just stood with us as we all talked to that guy. And he got angry. He got embarrassed, and his embarrassment, of course, turned to anger because he, a big macho man, couldn't show embarrassment or shame. He had to show anger. That's how they are, macho men. You can't tell the truth about your shame. You gotta just still be stupid like that. And so some of the other people started talking to him, and one an adult Hispanic male said, "You shouldn't treat your boy like that." And he said he just said to all these strangers that he had been viciously abused as a child, and it really hurt him, and it frightened him, and made him terribly afraid. And the other white guy started talking about how the people should get help. And I said to the woman, because she was in collusion with the child beater, she was like glaring at us. She said, "It's none of your business. It's none of all your people's business what we do to our children at home." And I said, "Oh, yes, it is. We are a community here. We may be a rainbow world of all kinds of different people, but it is definitely our business what you do to that child at your home." And one of the guys said, "So how often does your husband beat you?" To the Hispanic lady. And she just hung her head. And the little boy said, the 9-year-old who said he was 9, and he said, "He does. He beats my mother senseless, and she's afraid to protect us." And she got angry. She said, "Quit revealing the secrets and the truths of our family in public. This is terrible." And she said she was embarrassed. And I said, "Don't be embarrassed, change. You need help. All four of you help." And we all started talking to the 9-year-old. And I asked him if he had a school counselor. Is there a guidance counselor or a nurse at your school? He said yes, there was both, and a principal that he liked. And I said, "Okay, well, Monday when you get to school, promise us that you will talk to all of the above, but definitely your family needs some assistance more than a bunch of strangers here can provide. So please um, make sure that your counselor understands that there's physical abuse against both the children and a spouse in your world, and that's not all right." And he said he would. And the wife then, once she realized she was totally outnumbered, there's 30 people there trying to protect her children more than she was. She said she would too, and she acknowledged that she was going to go to the school Monday with the child and tell them what happened in public, and that her husband was being abusive to the boys and her, and she was afraid of her husband. The whole time, this man is just standing there fuming and getting angrier and angrier. And I'm still concerned about what's going to happen to that 2-year-old when he gets home. But she said she wouldn't. She guaranteed that she would call the police if the man hurt the children when they got home. And we talked about, the pecking order. I'm serious. This whole thing went on for about 30 minutes with 30 strangers and a security guard in this store. And we basically, everyone, including me, became satisfied that that family was going to get the help it needed, and that that Hispanic man was not going to beat and or try to rip the head off the kid when they got home. And some of the other men were telling him, "Look, he had hit his wife, and he got anger management classes, and he got help with drug and alcohol and so forth." So the Hispanic man was humbled very, very publicly, and he started being less angry and more calm and somewhat ashamed. And he agreed that he would get help, and he would get anger management classes, and he would. And the wife said, "And if you hit me again or them again," meaning the children, that she was going to call 911. And she said, "If you hit us again, you're going to go to jail, period." And so everybody decided, including the 9-year-old and the wife, um, decided that things were going to be calmer, and the child, the 2-year-old, was not going to be at risk of physical assault, and that the family was going to be on a higher path and get the help they needed. Okay? So the crowd dissipated, and everybody, including me, tried to go back to their business. I turned back to the checkout line and got in line again. The Hispanic lady I'd been talking to also got in line, and everyone started milling about. Well, as the couple that was the focus point of this spontaneous public intervention walked past me, the man who had threatened to rip his child's head off growled at me. He said, "Shut up, Karen." And I said, "No, you're going to hear from me, and you're going to continue to hear from me large." Okay, so I'm white, I'm female. I was the only person he said anything at all to that was negative. Everyone else they thanked. He thanked everybody, but because I'm white and because I'm female, I got dismissed and abused and called a Karen when a white man had been one of the main people talking to him. A Hispanic man had been one of the main people talking to him. There must have been at least 10 to 12 Hispanic women talking to him about how he shouldn't be ripping kids' heads off. And none of them got called a Karen. He didn't call anybody any kind of negative names that are related to their gender or their race or the fact that they had tried to intervene and help his child grow up alive. But he targeted me for hatred. And that was a hate crime. Not only did he admit, and his family admit in public, that he was a wife beater, that he was a child abuser, he was a drunk, he was also committing a hate crime in public against me because I was part of an intervention that family very sorely and desperately needed. That is one of only many instances where simply because you happen to be a white female, your concerns are now dismissed, even when you're trying to do the right thing, even when you're trying to be the best possible person you can be and help little kids that are being threatened in public by their own parents. Um, it's a hate word, and I'm tired of it. And the very freaking next person who refers to me as a Karen when all I'm trying to do is express real compassion, real concern, and go out of my way and off my agenda to help another human being, particularly a small child, that person's getting sued. Now, I did have to go ahead and check out. I had to get on with my agenda for the day. But when I got outside, I looked around for those people because I was going to try to get their license plate and turn them in to the police. I was going to call Child Protective Services. I talked to the security guard at the store as well. And I asked him where they were. Did he see him leave? Did he, happen to get um, their auto license plate? He said no, he thought they left. He thought they abandoned their potential purchases and just got out of there so no one could do what I was going to do. So it was a really upsetting experience for everyone concerned, especially the 9-year-old boy and the 2-year-old who was behaving very beautifully until he got threatened, but then started crying because he was so terrified of his own dad. And I am not a Karen. I am a caring, Caring person who doesn't sit well with having children threatened in my presence. I am going to petition the United States federal government to consider calling a white person a Karen a hate crime. It's every bit as bad as these other words that you can't say in public now because they're not only not politically correct, but can get you accused of committing a hate crime. You can't go around calling people epithets and dismissing their real concerns and not be full of hatred and abusive behavior. So I am not a Karen, but I am definitely a caring white woman who happens to not like to see children abused on my watch and who was absolutely singled out because of my skin color and my gender. And somebody referred to me with something, with a word that is absolutely and definitely hate speech. So I'm going to keep carrying on. There, I've said it. More later. Planet Peace is just getting started here, but let me say this. If you think your children were put on this world to hit, to be hit, to be the target of your anger, to be the target of your drunkenness and your drugged out behavior, if you hit your children ever at all, you need help and they need out. Your children were not put on this world to be physically assaulted and psychologically abused. Period. Ever. At all. I'm done. Sayonara.